Whether it was body shaming a fellow wrestler,
Does my title even fit around your waist?
Michelle, the extenders.
taking part in a live sex segment watched by millions, or beating an opponent into a stupor, some WWE women didn't just toe the line, they stepped way over it. These are the female wrestlers who went way too far beyond the storyline. Paige. Let's start with the contract signing between Paige and Charlotte on the November 16, 2015 episode of Raw. This segment was meant to hype their WWE Divas Championship match at Survivor Series, but instead became one of the most disapproved and uncomfortable moments in WWE history. The controversy began when Paige crossed the line with a deeply personal insult towards Charlotte's late brother, Reid Flair.
You're wrong, sweetheart. Because your little baby brother, he didn't have much fight in him, did he?
For those in the dark, this was a reference to Reid's tragic 2013 drug overdose that led to his death. Instead of intensifying the rivalry, the comment shocked the WWE universe and caused outrage across the wrestling world. To make matters worse, WWE never informed or sought permission from the Flair family. Ric Flair and Reid's mother, watching live, was left in tears just as the fans were left stunned. Charlotte, overcome with emotion, immediately attacked Paige, forcing WWE officials to intervene. This wasn't the only time Paige stirred controversy. As a rising star, she quickly gained fame for her rebellious anti-diva persona. Initially embraced as a fan favorite, she later turned heel to stay relevant. However, one moment in particular pushed WWE's PG-rated boundaries, and that's her match against Natalya on Main Event. In a bizarre, unexpected move, Paige licked Natalya's face in a provocative manner, an action that did not sit well with WWE management. While it added to her reputation as an edgy and unpredictable performer, it also landed her in hot water with the management. But Paige wasn't the only one to cross the line with personal attacks. Michelle McCool and Layla. In 2009, WWE's Michelle McCool and Layla, collectively known as LayCool, ignited one of the most controversial storylines in women's wrestling history, the Piggy James angle. Their target was Mickie James, a respected and accomplished competitor. Instead of focusing on in-ring rivalry, LayCool mocked her weight, publicly humiliating her with cruel taunts and derogatory body-shaming narrative. The backlash was intense, with many questioning why WWE allowed such a storyline in an era that was supposed to be moving past old stereotypes. Fans and critics immediately condemned WWE for promoting bullying, arguing that it damaged the company's supposed push for positive representation of women. Behind the scenes, Michelle McCool later admitted she felt deeply uncomfortable with the entire angle. She revealed that before each segment, she apologized to Mickie James, acknowledging how wrong it was. But despite the cruel nature of the storyline, Mickie handled it professionally, showing grace under pressure. Since then, WWE has tried to promote body positivity. While LayCool's storyline caused controversy, Sasha Banks made things personal in a different way. Sasha Banks. After months away from WWE, Sasha Banks returned to Monday Night Raw in 2019, and what should have been a triumphant moment quickly spiraled into one of the most ruthless attacks of her career. Banks hadn't been seen since WrestleMania 35, so when she walked out during Natalya's emotional tribute to her late father, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, fans expected a heartfelt gesture, but instead, she turned what could have been a touching return into a cold, calculated assault.
What the hell?
Surprise! Sasha Banks attacking Natalya!
Then came the moment she crossed the line. Natalya, already nursing an injured arm from SummerSlam, was blindsided as Sasha tore off her disguise and viciously beat her down. The attack was shocking, but it was what Sasha said that left fans speechless. Looking down at a broken Natalya, she said,
Go to hell, Natty. And tell your daddy I said hi.
That cruel jab at Natalya's late father took things from heel behavior to straight-up heartlessness. Even fans who loved Sasha's darker side in NXT were stunned by how far she was willing to go this time. The implication that her father was in hell was something WWE had toyed with in past storylines, but usually with family approval, not this time. Shortly after the segment aired, a report claimed the Neidhart family had given WWE permission to use that line, but Natalya quickly shot that down, posting on Twitter, "Entirely off base, enough said." That response made it clear the line wasn't signed off on, and made the moment feel even more disturbing in hindsight. Speaking of controversial in-ring moments, Lita shocked audiences with one of WWE's most infamous segments. Lita, often considered to be one of the most influential female wrestlers of all time, Lita was also one of the women to ever use the moonsault, and that helped her get over with the fans. At a time when female wrestlers weren't known for high-risk moves, Lita's daring technique and extra torque on impact made her moonsault both thrilling and believable. Fans couldn't get enough of her fearless, rebellious energy. But while her in-ring career was groundbreaking, one of Lita's most talked-about moments had nothing to do with wrestling moves and everything to do with one of WWE's most controversial segments ever. ever. In January 2006, Edge had just made history by becoming WWE Champion after cashing in his Money in the Bank contract. WWE's creative team wanted to come up with a wild way to celebrate his win, and a writer jokingly said, "If it were me, I'd have sex in the ring." Vince McMahon loved the idea, and just like that, WWE's first ever live sex celebration was set in motion. A bed was set up in the ring, and Edge and Lita acted out an intimate scene, stripping down to their underwear.
Well, they want to get off on the right foot, I'm sure. But every person in here cannot take their eyes off of this.
At one point, Edge removed Lita's bra, leading to a wardrobe malfunction that exposed her on live TV. The shocking moment was later edited out of streaming versions, but by then, millions of fans had already seen it. For WWE, the segment was a massive ratings win. The episode drew a 5.2 rating, the highest Monday Night Raw had seen in nearly a year. But while WWE considered it a success, Lita paid the biggest price. She was criticized by fans and eventually left WWE later that year. But Lita wasn't the only one to push boundaries with content. Mickie James took things to another level. Mickie James' match against Trish Stratus at WrestleMania 22 is one of the most talked about women's matches in WWE history. But while the match was a huge moment in women's wrestling, it is also remembered for a shocking, unscripted move that got Mickie in trouble behind the scenes. The storyline leading up to the match was intense. Mickie played a character who was obsessed with Trish, acting like a superfan who took things too far. At first, Trish thought Mickie was just a little overexcited, but as time went on, her admiration turned creepy. She tried to get closer to Trish in ways that made everyone uncomfortable. When the two faced off at WrestleMania, fans were excited to see the rivalry come to an end, but no one expected what Mickie would do next. That move wasn't planned. Later, Mickie revealed that she originally asked if she could lick her finger to fit her character's creepy personality, but in the heat of the moment, she made a split-second decision to do something even more shocking. After the match, Mickie expected to get praise for her performance. Instead, she got yelled at. However, this storyline paled in comparison to the dark history of the Fabulous Moolah. The name Fabulous Moolah was once celebrated in the world of wrestling. Today, however, it's remembered for all the wrong reasons. Moolah was an influential figure in women's wrestling, and her impact on the industry can't be ignored. But behind the success was a history of controversy and serious accusations. Moolah didn't just wrestle, she also worked as a booker, controlling the careers of many female wrestlers. But the way she ran things raised serious concerns. Some women Moolah booked and trained told stories of the property being locked down by a certain time, or they'd be locked out overnight with nowhere to go. These were not provided accommodations either. Moolah was collecting rent from the women living there, cramming 2 or 3 people in a single room. She charged them $1,200 a month in the 1970s, which would be about $9,100 today. The financial strain didn't end there. With Moolah and her husband Buddy Lee handling all the women's promotion and booking, Moolah took 25% of every wrestler's earnings, even if they weren't directly under her management. Those who were her trainees had to pay even more on top of their high rent. Money wasn't the only issue. Over the years, women came forward with disturbing accusations against Moolah, including forced sex, drug use, prostitution, and theft, leaving the wrestling world buzzing when women started coming forward. The training schedules, the booking schedule, and the expectations Moolah had for the women wrestlers were also extreme. Speaking of extreme, Chyna's fake injury was a case of WWE walking a thin line. Chyna. During her match against Ivory at the Royal Rumble in 2000, it appeared that Chyna had suffered a serious neck injury. After hitting her signature handspring back elbow, Chyna collapsed in the ring, clutching her neck and unable to move. The crowd went silent. It looked frighteningly real. Even longtime commentator Jerry the King Lawler left the announcer's table to check on her, a rare moment that reminded fans of when he did the same during the tragic real-life death of Owen Hart in 1999. WWE even brought out a stretcher, and Chyna's tag partner Billy Gunn rushed to the ring. Jim Ross, in a solemn voice, called the moment a tragedy, but it was all scripted. Later, fans learned that Chyna's injury was part of the storyline, meant to build drama around her previous neck injury from a past attack by the faction Right to Censor. The goal was to make her comeback even more powerful, but many felt WWE crossed a line. The fake injury was so convincing, and it touched on real pain that fans and wrestlers had experienced before. Some thought it was disrespectful, especially because it echoed the trauma of Owen Hart's death. Chyna eventually made her return at WrestleMania X7, where she easily defeated Ivory and won the Women's Championship. While it was a big victory for her character, the way WWE built the story still leaves a bitter taste. Let's move on to Mickie Knuckles, who took extreme wrestling to another level. Mickie Knuckles. Mickie is a trailblazer in death matches, going toe-to-toe and sometimes weapon-to-weapon with both male and female wrestlers.
Oh, and now Mayumi Ozaki in a bad
spot here.
Whether it's electrified light tubes or fans tossing in whatever they can find, Mickie handles it all with a fearless grin that says, "Bring it on." Of course, being a hardcore legend doesn't come without its battle scars. Mickie's broken a femur, fingers, ankles, wrists, and knees more times than she can probably count, and let's just say lots of blood has definitely been shed. However, one of the most shocking and controversial moments in Mickie Knuckles' wrestling career happened on June 21, 2008, during the Queen of the Deathmatch tournament in Indiana. What was supposed to be just another brutal hardcore match quickly spiraled into something darker. That night is now remembered as the infamous Mike Levy incident, a moment when many believe the line between wrestling and real violence was completely erased. Mike Levy was a young, untrained wrestler from North Carolina. He had built up some buzz online and somehow landed a spot in the tournament, but it turned out that he wasn't ready for this type of match, and definitely not for an opponent like Mickie Knuckles. During the match, Mickie hit him with real punches, weapons, and even headbutted him hard. She was bleeding too, but the punishment Mike was taking seemed excessive. You could tell he didn't expect it to be that real. Even after the match ended, things got even worse for Mike. Other wrestlers, including Devin Moore and Tank, jumped into the ring and attacked Mike Levy, hitting him with weapons, stomping on his head while it was on barbed wire. While the promoter insisted it was all part of the show, many weren't buying it. The attack looked too real, too personal, and way too violent. But when it came to backstage heat, few women generated as much as Melina Perez was one of the most athletic women in WWE history, with multiple reigns as Women's and Divas Champion. But for all her talent, her reputation backstage left a lasting stain on her career, and many believe she crossed the line more than once. While Melina shined in the ring, she quickly gained a reputation for being difficult to work with. One of the most infamous moments happened in 2006 on a WWE tour in Australia, when she was hauled into Wrestler's Court, a backstage tradition where wrestlers are tried for bad behavior. It got ugly. Some colleagues reportedly placed bets on how long it would take for her to break down crying, and they won. She crumbled under the pressure. But that wasn't the only time Melina went too far. In the women's locker room, she openly clashed with top stars. She skipped the traditional handshake, which led to Lita kicking her out. Things almost turned physical when Queen Sharmell nearly punched her over an incident involving Booker T and Batista. She also stirred tension with Mickie James and publicly questioned WWE hiring Candice Michelle, accusing her of lacking real wrestling skills. Melina's attitude may have softened later in her career, but the damage was done. WWE released her in 2011, and by then she was more known for her backstage issues than her in-ring success. In interviews, Melina denied many of the stories and hinted that jealous co-workers or rejected flirts may have spread lies about her.
And then you have to consider the source and what their position was compared to mine, or if they were jealous, if they were female or if they're male, and I turned down what is it, when people kind of like try to flirt with you or whatever, and then you kind of have to turn them down because you're taken. You never know their reaction.
Similarly, Sable made waves in a way no one else had before. Sable. She was one of WWE's most iconic female stars during the Attitude Era, known for her confidence, charisma, and trailblazing moments. But if there's one moment that defined her career, crowd erupted, making it one of the most shocking and talked about moments in WWE history. However, Vince McMahon later disqualified her, handing Jacqueline the win on a technicality. Despite that, Sable had already cemented herself as WWE's top female star. Her popularity went beyond wrestling, becoming the first ever WWE diva to strip nude for Playboy. Her 1999 cover was a massive success, selling over 1 million copies and ranking among the highest-selling issues of the decade. Such was the immense financial success that she realized she had outgrown WWE. She saw that she could earn far more outside Vince McMahon's control, pursuing similar high-profile opportunities without the constraints of the wrestling business. Shortly after she left WWE from a highly publicized fallout, Sable made history once again by becoming the first woman ever to grace the cover of Playboy twice in the same year. Moving on to the next wrestler who made headlines with her Pick Me promo, AJ Lee. In 2013, AJ Lee cut a scathing pipe bomb aimed directly at the cast of the Total Divas that ignited an uncomfortable war between the Black Widow and the Bella Twins. What started as a championship monologue quickly spiraled into a vicious verbal assault. AJ mocked the entire Divas division, calling them cheap, interchangeable, and talentless. She took shots at the Bellas, Natalya, Cameron, Naomi, JoJo, and Eva Marie, saying they turned to reality TV because they weren't good enough to be actresses or champions. She didn't stop there. AJ accused them of being plastic mannequins, said they didn't earn anything, and implied they only got ahead by cozying up to the right people. At the time, AJ was in full heel mode, a narcissistic, manipulative champion doing whatever it took to stay on top. But listening back now, her promo feels way too personal. Her comments carried a heavy tone of slut-shaming, and that doesn't sit right in today's climate, or honestly, even back then. What makes it worse is that the women she targeted did put in the work. The Bella Twins went on to become Hall of Famers. Natalya is one of the most respected technical wrestlers in the company. Naomi brought innovation, charisma, and originality to the ring. These weren't reality stars pretending to be wrestlers. They were wrestlers who carried the division through some of its most transitional years. AJ Lee may have thought she was dropping truth bombs, but in hindsight, she just might have gone way too far. However, no diva stirred up drama quite like Sunny, though it's outside the octagon. Sunny. In the late 90s, Sunny was the most downloaded celebrity on the internet and one of the most recognizable faces in wrestling. But Sunny's legacy would eventually be overshadowed not by the bright lights of the ring, but by a long, painful descent into addiction and crime. Everything came crashing down on March 25th, 2022, in Florida. Sunny was behind the wheel while extremely drunk. Her blood alcohol level was 4 times the legal limit. She even had an open bottle of vodka in the car, as well as cannabis in her system. She slammed into a vehicle stopped at a red light, causing a deadly chain reaction. A 75-year-old man named Julian Lassiter lost his life in the crash. And here's what made it worse. Sunny had already lost her license due to multiple DUIs. She should never have been driving. People were outraged. This wasn't her first run-in with the law. She'd been arrested several times before for DUI, and many believed this tragedy could have been prevented if she had taken her problem seriously years ago. In November 2023, Sunny was sentenced to 17 years in prison, plus 8 years probation after that. She's also been permanently banned from driving. What started as a groundbreaking career in wrestling ended in a courtroom. While personal drama followed many WWE women, karma had a shocking, real-life revelation on live television: Charlotte Flair. The events that unfolded between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch in October 2021 felt a little too strange to be scripted. On the October 22nd episode of SmackDown, the two were involved in a title exchange segment after being drafted to different brands. It should have been simple. Charlotte, the Raw Women's Champion, would hand her title to Becky, the SmackDown Women's Champion, and vice versa. But that's not how it went down. When it felt tense, awkward, even unscripted. In response, Becky tossed the SmackDown belt right as to be a routine segment instantly turned uncomfortable. And that discomfort didn't end there. The duo reportedly had a heated exchange backstage after the incident. Becky herself later confirmed the friction in an interview. She said she knew Charlotte was going to disrespect her during the segment. She even admitted that in wrestling, there has to be trust, and when that trust is gone, you might as well be doing MMA. Despite the fallout, the two would go on to put on an incredible match at Survivor Series just a month later, but it's clear that Lynch's trust in her one-time best friend was thoroughly shattered on the back of this segment, an act of frustration that likely went a touch too far. Victoria, on the other hand, made her mark by introducing a new level of aggression to women's wrestling. Victoria wasn't your typical WWE diva. She was tough, intense, and brought a brutal edge to women's wrestling that fans weren't ready for. Fans were shocked. It wasn't just a botched move. It felt like she went too far. But that wasn't Victoria's only savage moment. In August 2002, she debuted on Monday Night Raw, and by October, she was already gunning for Trish Stratus's Women's Championship. At No Mercy, a controversial loss sent her spiraling. In a blind rage, Victoria grabbed a steel chair and smashed Trish in the face, signaling she was more than just a challenger. She was a threat. Rivalry would rage on for another 6 months. Nia Jax also became known for her intense in-ring style, but not in a good way. Nia Jax, known for her dominance and raw power, she's also been branded by fans and some peers as an unsafe worker, a title no wrestler wants. While her size made her a believable monster in the ring, her physical, often reckless style led to more than a few unforgettable and, unfortunately, real injuries. One of the most infamous moments of her career came in November 2018, during the red-hot build-up to Survivor Series. WWE was preparing for a dream match between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, but everything changed in a flash.
Case of Becky Lynch, which is what caused the fractured face and severe concussion. Becky Lynch obviously still feeling the effects.
In a backstage brawl, Nia landed a real punch on Becky Lynch, one so hard it broke Becky's nose and gave her a severe concussion.
We have learned that Becky Lynch
will not be able to compete this Sunday at Survivor Series after sustaining the injury of a broken face and a severe concussion.
It was a devastating setback, but in a twist of fate, it made Becky Lynch a superstar. The image of her standing in the crowd, face covered in blood, defiantly smirking, became iconic, solidifying her as the man in WWE. But not everyone walked away from Nia Jax with a career boost. In 2017, Bayley suffered a separated shoulder after Nia flung her out of the ring with too much force.
I respect that. Yeah, but Booker, she has a lot to prove. Oh my Lord! Bounce shoulder first off the mat. Nia's dominating.
The injury knocked Bayley out of SummerSlam, costing her a major opportunity. In 2020, during a match against Kairi Sane, Nia whipped her opponent into the steel steps with such force that Kairi's head smacked hard, resulting in a nasty gash. What makes these incidents so frustrating isn't just the injuries, it's that they were avoidable. Time and time again, Nia has proven that she's a guru at crossing the line from powerful to reckless. Now, we have a wrestler who took decision-making matters into her own hands, Ronda Rousey. Rousey's return to WWE in 2022 could have been a major success. Instead, it felt more like damage control. After dominating the women's division and headlining WrestleMania 35, Rousey stepped away from WWE in 2019. At the time, fans weren't sure why she left, but in April 2020, she gave them an answer, and it didn't sit well. On the Wild Ride with Steve-O podcast, Rousey went too far by blaming WWE fans for her decision to leave.
It's like, I love performing, I love the girls, I love being out there, but at the end of the day, I was just like, these fans, dude, my family loves me and they appreciate me, and I want all my energy to go into them.
I love it.
That was my decision at the end of the day.
That quote hit hard, and it stuck with fans. So when Rousey returned at the 2022 Royal Rumble, some people hoped she'd win back the crowd, but her return didn't feel right. WWE pushed her as a hero, but many fans weren't ready to cheer for someone who had insulted them. In fact, there were rumors that WWE used fake crowd noise to make it seem like she was getting more support than she actually was. It was a strange situation. Rousey used to be called the baddest woman on the planet, but now her biggest fight is with the same fan base that once supported her. Instead of letting her in-ring skills speak for themselves, Ronda's harsh words outside the ring may have ruined what could have been one of the greatest comebacks in WWE history. There are others who participated in some of the most bizarre storylines ever, like Dawn Marie, Dawn Mary. Dawn was in a heated rivalry with another WWE diva, Tori Wilson. At first, it was the usual competition, bikini contests and catfights, but things quickly turned personal. Dawn started flirting with Tori's real-life father, Al Wilson, and claimed she had fallen in love with him. Then she announced that she wanted to marry him. To make things even more uncomfortable, Dawn told Tori that if she wanted her to stop dating her dad, she had to meet her in a hotel room. That segment became one of WWE's most adult and suggestive scenes, ending with Dawn kissing Tori and the screen fading to black.
You can stop this. Dawn, stop it.
Fans were left wondering what actually happened. However, Dawn didn't keep her word. She went ahead and married Al anyway in their underwear.
Al's gonna be nude. No! Oh my God! Look at no! The idiot's dancing.
If that wasn't absurd enough, WWE took it one step further. The following week, it was announced that Al Wilson had died from too much sex with Dawn. The storyline shocked fans. Some laughed, but many felt it crossed the line and was in poor taste. Even Tori Wilson has said in interviews that she didn't enjoy being part of the story. She admitted she felt uncomfortable with the sexual scenes, but felt pressured to go along with them to keep her spot on TV.
Yeah, I mean, it was in a nutshell. That we didn't go into like nitty-gritty details, so it turned into something that was a little more raunchy than I anticipated, like the hotel room thing.
Today, many fans and wrestling writers still call it one of the worst and most over-the-top storylines WWE has ever done. Want more of this video? Click on the card showing on your screen now.